Policy Lessons from South Korea's Development. Human Capital, a Key to Korea's Growth Performance, with Joo-ho Lee.
Hello everyone, my name is Joo-ho Lee. I am a professor at the KDI School of Public Policy and Management. My talk today is Human Capital Policies in Korea. Although Korea began the process of industrialization much later than the West, Korea has simultaneously achieved astonishing economic development and a democratic political system, thanks mainly to its investment in people. According to the human capital theory, differences in long-term per capita income growth stems primarily from differences in the rates of growth of human capital. Endogenous growth theorists have also stressed that human capital is the engine of economic growth. The Korean case fits quite well with the economic growth pattern explained by the human capital and endogenous growth theories. After the liberalization in 1945, the Korean government actively pushed for mandatory education and allocated about 80% of educational budget for compulsory education. And most of the foreign aid for education was spent on repairing or building classrooms. It is not an easy task to have every child attend basic education. Needless to say, there needs to be enough classrooms, teachers, textbooks, and so on. However, what is much more important is the hope and belief of people that schooling is the most important way to set their next generation free from ignorance and poverty. It was such a belief in education that brought children into classrooms. In Korea, the active role of the government was matched properly with the enthusiasm for learning, prompting the universal education system within a short period of time. The enrollment rate at the elementary level surpassed 90% in 1957 and reached 96.4% in 1959. Since the initial stage of development, the resources that government or public sector had were not enough for teaching all students for free at once. The financial burden was shared by regular households and many donors. Active participation of private foundations, especially in secondary and higher education, helped the government to focus on basic schooling. Many people donated their lands and assets to build schools, especially for middle and high schools and colleges. In fact, as many private schools were established as public schools from 1955 to 1967. During the land reform, the government gave favors to the land owned by the private school foundations to encourage the establishment of new schools. Owing to the active donation from private sectors, 74% of college students and 59% of high school students were enrolled in private schools in 1980. After successfully universalizing basic education within a short period of time, the government expanded the provision of education sequentially from secondary, vocational to tertiary education. Universalization in elementary education in the 1950s laid the foundation for increasing demands for secondary education. However, most parents and students preferred general education to vocational education. Most families and children look down upon vocational education or technical trainings, partly because of the deep-rooted tradition of Confucianism, which praises scholars of humanities and farmers while disregarding the professions of manufacturing and trades. Through the specialization initiatives for technical high schools of 1973, a very ambitious project to bring education and industry closer, the Blue House, which is the name of presidential office, strongly promoted heavy and chemical industrialization in 1970s. Before the initiatives, the quality of vocational schools was not high enough to nurture skilled workers needed in industrial sites, and the policymakers found it very difficult to enhance the quality of all schools at the same time. Thus, the government rejected the one-size-fits-all approach and employed a selection and concentration strategy. With limited time and financial resources, the government strategically invested the resources on a small number of institutions to bring about tangible outcomes with higher chances of success. Starting from 1973, new vocational high schools were established with state-of-the-art equipment financed by foreign loans. Some students of vocational schools benefited through full scholarships, dormitory residence, and even stipends. The Blue House was a strong supporter of vocational education, and President Park often visited these schools to cheer students and teachers. He also awarded presidential scholarships to those who acquired precision licenses during their school days. In 1977, the government spending on vocational education had reached the level that is almost equivalent to the level of government spending on higher education. The national efforts to respect technician and boost up vocational education contributed to the change in mindsets of the Korean people. A more substantial tool to promote vocational and technical training was the establishment of National Technical Qualification System in 1973. This system categorized technical sectors into engineers and technicians, and all students of technical colleges and technical high schools and vocational trainees had to take the qualification examination before their graduation. At the initial stage of development, Korean society also faced severe brain drains. Not a small number of people left to study abroad. During the period from 1953 to 1967, almost 8,000 people left to study abroad, which was about 6.4% of all students enrolled in higher education in 1967. Only less than 1,000 returned. Since then, the government leadership to actively promote brain circulation turned those people abroad into an important brain pool for industrialization and social development for Korea. The Seoul National University project is an important example. The Korean and American governments initiated the SNU project in 1955. The government hired University of Minnesota to undertake this large-scale project. The consultants, American professors, who were equipped with appropriate teaching and management experiences in the US, resided in Korea to convert SNU into a more efficient American model. The program took place over 6 academic years from 1955 to 1961. 226 members of the SNU faculty studied at the University of Minnesota. Indebted from the project of transferring advanced knowledge and practices from the US, Korea composed a critical mass of reform-minded academic elites who set the base for active academic and political exchanges between the two countries. The project also contributed to laying grounds for the national building of liberal democracy. The repatriation of Korean brains to universities and institutes helped scientists and engineers to rise quickly to the top rank of the socio-political strata in Korea. At the same time, the scientific planning and monitoring by highly qualified professional researchers in policy-making process strengthened the capacity of government and its officials. In turn, competitive rewards for foreign-trained doctorates and researchers encouraged young students to invest more on their educational attainment and contribute to brain circulation. Those institutions contributed to promoting national innovation and effective brain circulation, working as conduits that bridged the relatively closed domestic society with wide global communities. Korea moved to high-tech industries and knowledge-based economy by investing more in human capital for national innovation. In terms of the number of researchers per inhabitant, Korea now has the highest ratio among countries with high R&D spending. To sum up, Korea has successfully nurtured its workforce through three major strategies. First, early focus on basic education. Second, building a vocational education system. Third, promoting brain circulation. Thank you for your attention.